Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the SOMA Mater podcast. My name is Majid Al Qassimi. I'm the founder and CEO of SOMA Mater. We are a food and water security and sustainability consultancy and advisory working out of the UAE. We're based here today in our offices in the Sharjah Research, Technology and Innovation Park. And with me, my good friend, and I'm very glad to have Yazen Al Kodmani as our first guest on the podcast. So we're not going to waste any time. Small intro on you. You've been working in the food sector, specifically in farming, for a good few years. You can give us a little brief about how many and the many hats you wear.
Sure.
You're probably competing with me for busiest man in the world.
In our sector, yeah.
In our sector, absolutely. And I really wanted to take this opportunity to dive into maybe what's the most pertinent challenge on your mind today? And maybe we can talk across policy, across markets. What is it that we can do to solve and maybe work through some solutions? So Yazen, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And taking your morning for us. So let's start. I mean, you are the CEO of Emirates Bio Farm. You are also CEO to Emirates Bio Fertilizer.
Yes.
And you are also an advisor to the World Economic Forum's Food Innovation Hub. You're the senior food systems advisor. I have also you as a partner for 3Y. You also in the spaces we are advising and consulting on agriculture and food. What do you not do?
I think, tough question to ask. In agriculture, I joined a family business and a group of existing companies, which was in contracting, building greenhouses, irrigation systems, fertilizers. And when I joined, it was our first venture into actual production with Emirates Bio Farm. So then I was supposed to be there more. My background is finance, operations. I was supposed to be there more figuring out, post-harvest, some management aspects of the business. And I became very passionate about some of the challenges of sustainable production in a country like the United Arab Emirates. And I was fascinated by the history that my father had in the United Arab Emirates, farming since the 1970s. And I thought that we need to carry that legacy. And that is where we got into the consulting aspect, bringing in together all this knowledge and expertise from building tech, supplying fertilizers, growing produce ourselves, dealing with retailers, dealing with the final consumer. I think we had a unique perspective across the industry we had. And that is where the consulting aspect came in. And then the World Economic Forum, as I started to talk more and more about food policy and food security and so on. But I think as 3Y and SOMA Mater, I think we are more on the technical production side. And you are more in strategy, access, and so on. And that is why I think we complete a lot of projects together.
So tell me, having this visibility on the food system here in the UAE, what is currently, I mean, because I know this happens all the time, there are always challenges, but what's the current thing that's sort of driving you and eating up your bandwidth in terms of brain power? Because I know we discuss a lot of things, but I kind of wanted to sort of tap into what this morning maybe you were thinking of driving into the office here.
I think when we started working together and 5 years ago, we had very focused issues. We talked about the organic sector a lot. That was my key focus. Today, I think I'm looking at food security as a whole more holistically. I'm looking at the challenges of recently we had a panel about regulation and policy, and it's got me thinking on what are the incentive structures to get our goals achieved. So if you talk about smallholders in the UAE, if you talk about commercial entities, governmental sectors, ultimately we are all working towards one goal, which is getting more food security for the nation. And we're doing that through trying to increase production, reduce food loss and waste, trying to influence menus, trying to influence retail shelves. And we are doing that through different levers and tools. And sometimes you're getting different perspectives that has a long-term impact. So how do we get the right messages across? A lot of what I'm trying to do these days is to share knowledge.
Yeah.
And then just put it out there. And then people, put it into the discourse so that we can get on the same page.
No, and I've seen on LinkedIn, and I've seen also in some groups that we're a part of. You speak very passionately. You can see the challenge because you're both operator and now you're working at a systems level. Let's dive a little deeper into maybe what the UAE's food system looks like and what you see as the sort of main challenge, right? Let's lay the ground here a bit. One, the UAE is trying to focus on ensuring we have food security. I know this because I worked on the food security strategy for the country and has now been, well, more than 5 years, 6 years in execution. There is an understanding that there are smallholders, there are national champions, and then there's a private sector involved here, along with the trade that we have. The space that you work in, predominantly growing in country, what do you think is a fundamental elephant in the room, if you will, that we haven't addressed, whether it's from a policy side or simply structuring, the way industry works? Let's pick at that and let's talk through that.
I think in general, what we see is that you have really strong focus on smallholder farmers from ministry, federal government, ministry, local governments. You have a strong focus on bringing foreign direct investment and innovation and the new high-tech farms. You have a strong push for government-owned or semi-government-owned entities to come in and fill the gaps. One of the challenges I see is that they are all in silos. So if somebody's looking at investment in the high tech and so on, I don't think they're looking at smallholders. If somebody's looking at smallholders, they're not looking at what's happening across.
When you say they, you're talking about the policymakers and the regulators?
I think so, yeah. The policymakers and the people within each of these ecosystems.
So they're siloed off from everybody else.
They are a bit siloed off. It feels, well, in recent years, I think there's way more collaboration and connections being made and across federal cross-emirate collaboration. But what that causes is that sometimes, let's say you're supporting smallholders. Sometimes this support stops them from taking the leap from smallholder to a more commercial farm. As they lose subsidies, they lose that ecosystem.
Right. Let's explain that. So how do the subsidies work in the UAE for agriculture?
Well, there's federal and there is local.
Emirate level subsidies.
So federal, you get some subsidies on inputs, fertilizers, seeds, and so on.
Is that capped at, you said if you scale, you're losing these subsidies. So at what level?
As soon as you get a commercial license.
Oh, so it's not even so the premise is if you want to commercialize your farm, that subsidy is removed from you.
Yes. What happened is early in the 70s and 80s and 90s, a lot of agriculture land is distributed. And that is owned by local Emiratis, nationals. And with that came the challenges of, okay, thank you for giving me this land, but how do I trade? I don't want to open a license. I'm farming, and you want to empower them. So they were able, through the farm owner's name, to operate as a business in a way. They can sell, they can issue invoices, without going into DD or getting a commercial license.
A professionalized, commercial setup.
And as a national, you got agriculture subsidies for electricity and water, which are significant, right? And then you got support in terms of hiring and a few different things. You got a lot of services supported as a smallholder. And then you sold to the government at fixed rates. Once you commercialize, once you get a license, because now you want to deal with a retailer directly, you want to expand your business in a certain way. Maybe you want to export, let's say. You want to expand heavily. you are going to lose all of.
So I want to pick on that point, because you want to expand, meaning you have a successful commercial venture, or at least what I mean to say is scaling will bring more money to the table. And immediately, essentially what sounds to me like a successful food security based business, i.e. producing, is immediately, knocked out in the knees because those subsidies are pulled. So that limits where those farms can exist at a size and a scale. My question, and you've operated and you've seen many farms, those smallholders, do they number are there a lot of those? I mean, I know you are in the Al area.
Yes.
There are a lot of smallholder farms, but are they all profitable?
So majority of farms, what we're talking about, smallholders, just given the amount of land in Abu Dhabi is the majority of smallholder farms in the country.
Yeah.
I believe 28,000.
Yeah, we have, Abu Dhabi is 80% of the landmass of the country, and hence about 80% of the agricultural practice in smallholders. Yeah.
And I think fresh water sources in the city of Al Ain and Liwa and so on.
Here, I just pulled up the stats, sorry, while we were talking. The UAE has over 38,000 farms, including those producing vegetables, fruits, and other crops. It's on our database.
I think maybe 28 is Abu Dhabi, and then...
Yeah, exactly. And then the rest is on Northern Emirates.
So, and then these subsidies that I'm talking about in these structures are Emirate-based. So what I'm talking about is more the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure
what the other Emirates
are looking like. What the purpose, I think, is that we want to support smallholders reach that level, and once they reach that level, you're not supposed to be subsidizing. So you want to get them to be efficient. You want to get them to be, competitive. So I think that is the
so the idea was to get these farms to a certain level. Now, I know from my own family and many others, those farms actually serve the family. So not everything goes to market, or maybe nothing goes to market. The idea is there's fresh fruit and veg that can come home.
So then you don't get a commercial license.
So there, you don't need a commercial license. There isn't any incentive to do that. But say you have a successful farmer, somebody who's saying, oh, we're doing really well, and I want to take this venture forward, they immediately get held back because the subsidy can't support that. Okay. And then at a scaled farm, so Emirates Bio Farm has been working now for how many years?
We started in 2017.
2017. Okay. So you're looking at a farm that's sort of been scaling, and I know you're the largest organic farm in the UAE. And you have a large component that has non-agricultural activities. Correct. You have agritourism, they're agriculture adjacent, but the idea is you're using that to help balance out your financials, right? And I think it's an exciting time for agriculture in this way. But as an operator, how do you sit then against the other operating commercial farms? What in that bracket, if you will, what are the challenges there compared to these smallholders? Yeah,
just to also, you asked me about the profitability of being
a
smallholder. I think there are some smallholders, of course, that are able to turn a profit, especially if the farm owner is extremely involved. Back in the day, so you have to look at the history, obviously. The subsidy structures was a bit even more robust, and the purchasing, I believe, is still around the same price, what the government fixed sourcing from locals. Today, with the increased costs, it's getting very difficult. And a lot of smallholders view it as, if I can cover my costs, so that my land is farmed, I can eat that is excellent. That is the goal. What that does is, when you go to the market, you have a lot of competition that's just trying to break even, right? So they're selling at prices that are not necessarily profitable.
Right.
And when you reach our level, let's say on a medium to large scale, we produce about 3 tons to 4 tons a day in the season.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And across a year, about 700 to 800 tons total, as well as organic eggs. We do about 5 million organic eggs annually. So we are distributing directly to the market under our own brand.
Yeah.
We are doing that so that we can capture more of that selling
value.
price.
Exactly. Yeah.
A lot of others might not have the sophistication.
Yeah.
Because that's another business.
Yeah,
distribution is a whole business, a logistics business.
Yes, yeah.
It's a sales, shelf space, merchandisers.
Yeah.
It's a whole other world. And as well, we are doing our agritourism and we are doing our poultry. Now, why am I saying all these things? This is all trying to diversify risk, capture more price point. If a visitor comes to the farm and buys directly from me, that's even better than me distributing directly, right?
Yeah.
It's taking away all the logistics, the packaging, and so on. So today we're about 30, 30, 30 in terms of revenue.
Okay.
And annually, I have a problem in one of them, and the other one helps us.
Right. You're covering the bases, basically.
So we found this strategy to be good for us in terms of risk management, but it goes against efficiency. Right. If I was specialized in tomatoes or cucumber, I'm going to be really good at growing tomatoes, packaging tomatoes, distributing tomatoes. Right now, I'm not specialized. We're growing 50 plus crops.
Yeah.
We do events, tourism, e-commerce, home delivery.
Yeah.
We welcome 3,000 guests a week.
Wow.
So we have that. And our poultry, again, so the poultry division, I tell them, listen, I'm not a poultry management company. I'm this.
Yes, exactly.
So you need to understand that and stand on
your own on your own legs. It's interesting you bring that up when you say you're not a sort of pure cucumber or pure tomato player. And it makes me then think of like all of the hydroponic and the closed system agriculture players in the market. And we've shared many a time our opinion and our perspective on that. And maybe this is the right way to segue into that space. What do you think this closed environment agriculture has in terms of a role for our food system?
I think the idea, so there's a few things. There's a lot of people that mix maybe vertical farming, hydroponics, and the different systems between low tech, medium tech, high tech, indoor containers, and so on. So hydroponics is an irrigation system that is mainly focused on efficient delivery of nutrients, recirculation of the water, using sensors and proper controller units to really deliver and measure what's coming back and what's going and having better control. It is extremely important for a country like the United Arab Emirates, who's trying to save its precious resources, mainly water. So hydroponics has been supported in the United Arab Emirates by the government across. So you had Khalifa Fund early on, investing and supporting farmers to install hydroponic units. You have many governmental owned and private sector going fully on hydroponics. Now, the hydroponics industry is fulfilling a lot of its goals in terms of productivity, in terms of quality. The challenges they are facing is costs, I believe. But not specific to hydroponics. I'll get into that. Even with organic, with a lot of us on the market, we have, we forget that we are part of a huge global food trade. And we are at the center of it today in the United Arab Emirates. So competitiveness is extremely important. And with the hydroponics industry, some of the challenges are the costs, the capex.
This is something I've said as well.
It's a huge capex, and then energy is sometimes very high. Now, I want to preface that with there are some hydroponic projects that are open field. They're Dutch buckets outside. Mirak did this with strawberries very early on.
Amazing,
and then you have hydroponic systems at Elite Agro under shade nets.
Yes.
Which aren't using LEDs, which aren't using ACs and cooling and mechanical. So then you're getting the water efficiency without the huge energy costs. You are getting semi-closed systems like Pure Harvest and a few others who are using mechanical cooling and evaporative cooling.
Incredible product as well.
Incredible product, trying to get, and they led the way in changing the mindset for local.
Absolutely.
Now, back in the day, it's like, okay, import is this price point. You're going to be under. No, today you're seeing local getting competitive prices, getting with that high quality.
Right?
With the quality.
Yeah.
Now, when we go into the extreme high tech, let's say taking hydroponics with vertical farming, with LEDs, with fully mechanical cooling, trying to capture the humidity back, the energy cost goes so high up.
Yeah.
And the idea of not utilizing a lot of land maybe is not as relevant if you're not on the island of Manhattan, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, I have marginalized land, which is usually not considered agricultural land, right? Desert.
Not arable. You can't, you're not extracting, or there aren't enough nutrients in the soil or the sand for that matter.
We're not cutting down forests to farm.
This is it, exactly. We have open desert or
cheap marginalized land that can be utilized in this way.
Exactly.
And then you have sunlight, a lot of sunlight.
Like
I remember visiting Wageningen when I was very young at one of the leading universities in the world in Netherlands. And one of the professors there said, if we have your sunlight, we'd grow 3x what we do in Holland.
Yeah.
They have to,
adjust
in the LEDs, and then the price makes sense. So I think that we need to find that balance of tech that makes sense for us, makes sense for competitiveness, and that is the message that we're trying to get across. Sorry to interrupt. There's another element of this that is extremely important for me, and I'd love the industry to talk about it more. We talk about year-round production. Yeah. So what happens with that? This is the holy grail. I'm trying to achieve, let's say, year-round production. When you chase that, so what do you install in your farm? You've got to manage your environment for the worst day of the year, mid-July. If you invest to do that, you're not going to use it the rest of the 8 months of mild, acceptable weather. You're using it for the worst months. In these worst months, July, August, September, you have schools out, you have families traveling. The United Arab Emirates is heavily, 180 plus nationalities. Yes. A lot of foreigners living here. They travel. Yeah. Tourism drops significantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then our neighbors and our region is producing. It's summer. The rest of the world is happy. Yeah. They have our winter weather.
I was about to say, we're currently in the opposite side of the cycle to the Western or the moderate
and
climate.
The Levant as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all, it's peak summer, peak production. So you're getting cheap imports and low demand. And you invested heavily, sometimes 2x, 3x to combat July, August, September. So my point of view is, should we revisit that? I think it's going to be very difficult for me to invest in anything, because I tried even to push ourselves and grow a lot of produce. And I learned this firsthand. Yeah. Demand crashed. Yeah. I threw away a lot of product. It's very unfortunate. Yeah. So from a returns perspective, I understand the need. You know why? Because imagine every year I go away, I allow competitors to take my customers. Yeah. And then I come back in October, November, and I say, hey, remember me. Yeah. And I need to reintroduce, re-grab market shelf. Yeah. And capture my client base again, which if I continued over the summer, I wouldn't lose that. So I understand the need for year-round. And the second is for, of course, food security. The idea is
that you always have something. Yeah. Let me recap a lot of what you said, because there's some very valid policy paths we can take. Going in reverse order. First, that whole all year round versus seasonal growing. I think what's maybe lacking in policy is a sort of lean towards sourcing local in our top seasons, right? And that's not to say that we block, because the practice of the UAE is a free and open market. So we're not going to put tariffs. It's never been entertained to sort of restrict trade into the country. But there should, at least this is the way SOMA thinks about it, there should be an incentive or some form of push to ensure our local produce get on shelves in front of consumers, and that we push for local consumption, especially when the season is good. Because I think it's healthy that you're resting fields, that you're not pushing CapEx investment, resource use in what are extremely difficult months to to produce anything. Then when we talk about where hydroponics or, the technology side for agriculture works, much like the way you're operating Emirates Bio Farm, we need a diversified food system, right? And technology has its parts in many, including your farm. It has its role in many ways to be able to create efficiency, to be able to create an opportunity for food to be the least costly in terms of water and energy at that. And I hear the sort of point you're trying to make is we need to readdress that balance and get sophisticated about that. And I think that's what you and I, between 3Y and SOMA, are constantly trying to bring to operators. The sophisticated operators know this, and I think the smallholders maybe aren't incentivized to do that simply because they have the buffer of subsidies. And I think what we're challenged with is getting those smallholders to transition. And it's, what the food security strategy to a certain extent was hoping for. And I don't think we've got the policy mix and the support right to help those farmers transition. Although Emirates Development Bank has been working on something, I think it's a lot more sophisticated and policy has a big role. Finally, I think we've got a lot of produce and capabilities in country. I think it's just about understanding the mix between trade and between the regional capabilities. You mentioned the Levant, and SOMA Mater's always pushing for a sustainable food system in the MENA region, so the Middle East and North Africa. And between those two regions, North Africa and the Middle East, we're covered. And we really hope that we can get more involved with the other food systems to be able to ensure that we have more regional trade in food. And I think you've seen the way that works also. I'm excited. I mean, right now, there's a challenge in the high capex technology sectors. And I think that's just normal as part of the technology hype cycle. I think now we're seeing some consolidation and some readdressing of the way those businesses work. And ultimately, moving from there onwards, I hope we get the right kind of move forward. I'd like to see more. Let me put it this way. I'd like to see more technology cross between the silos you mentioned in the beginning. Right?
I think, you mentioned something that now there's a shift. And I think we're very fortunate that even though huge investments and a lot of capex went into these very high tech, what it brought was very smart people. And today they understand, okay, maybe in the beginning they were coming in with this perspective, but now they have become seasoned growers, understanding the industry more. So now you've got very bright people looking at the food production ecosystem holistically. So I'm hopeful for what's coming. And you've got robotics, AI, data. You've got a lot of interesting tech coming out. They're looking across the food production. And this is, it brings me back to what's my opinion on hydroponics, is that the agriculture and the food production ecosystem is huge. The UAE is one of the largest date palm producers in the world. So that doesn't address that. Animal production, animal feed. Of course, you can grow it hydroponically, but the cost is. So large scale, when you talk about food security, most of agriculture is focused on 4 main crops, wheat, corn, rice, sugars,
your grains, basically.
Your grains and sugars, and then, of course, oils and different things. So hydroponics technically is not going into root crops. It's not going to grow your potatoes and carrots. And it can, but productivity, just to give you an idea, carrots do, because, they're not trellised and so on, and they're one-time harvest and their cycle is like 90 days. So you're going to produce, let's say, 3 to 6 kilos of carrots a square meter. With tomatoes, you're doing 40 to 60.
Wow.
And then with the highest tech, most controlled, you can reach up to 80 kilos a square meter.
Wow.
Cucumbers, maybe 10 to 20. So peppers.
So the vine crops.
With the price of these items, with the huge demand and with the productivity per square meter, they lend themselves to be possible to do in high tech.
Yeah.
You can also do lettuces, which are premium, but also a very short cycle.
Yeah.
So like 30 days, some of them. So then you're able to harvest a lot of, and have a lot of growth cycles and have premium product. So they lend themselves, but you're never going to have wheat, which requires, it's like 250 grams a square meter, let's say. Of course, you know, up to, you can do more. But with that kind of production and large scale, you're competing against guys growing wheat in rain, you know.
Yeah, in
rain-fed
countries.
One guy on a tractor doing, you know, hundreds of acres.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's incredible large-scale open field production using existing soil in rich lands. So if you're going to try to come in and do a hydroponic system into cornfields, that's not, nobody sees that as happening.
Yeah.
So the hydroponic system is part of a multi-pronged approach. It's answering for, let's say, the tomatoes, peppers, the high quality,
the berries now
fresh berries, sure. But we still need an answer for the root crops, the open field crops, the trees, the animal husbandry, the aquaculture, and so on. Organic in our sector kind of targets a lot of that. And the second thing that organic does for us is it premiumizes production. The consumer preference, they want, and I think, you know, this is up for debate, but you see it with the fermented proteins, you see it with a lot of the alternatives. People are still leaning towards natural. So they want it to be soil grown, they want it to be natural, with as little processing as possible.
I think there's been a blowback to a certain extent on the capex, the technology required, and then ultimately what the knock-on effects of heavy processing of proteins of plant origin or otherwise mean for our long-term health. And still, I mean, there's a romanticizing of organic culture, agriculture, and the sort of being on the farm, and you know, that's not a good or a bad thing. It exists. But it's still out, and we don't have time to go into the depths of this, but like where health is in food. And you know, in my opinion, the consensus that I'm seeing between a lot of operators, a lot of people rather, is the least amount of touching and processing and doing anything to vegetable, fruit, or meat is all the better for you. Right. And I think that's where, you know, food systems today, not only here, but around the world, are going to address. There's still going to be large scale industrialization of the food system, but the offering that Emirates Bio Farm has for a lot of the local consumers is one that's very appealing because they can come to the farm. The conversation with Yazen has been full of depth and detail. And because we didn't want you to lose the richness of this conversation, we've broken it down into 3 parts. This has been the end of part 1, and we look forward to continuing with you in part 2.